There are a lot of famous bridges around the world. And 25.2 miles east of the Pacific Ocean, Pasadena, California, has the Colorado Street Bridge.
The Pasadena Bridge is an incredible visual when you enter Pasadena. It's iconic not only for the look of it, but for the age of it too. This has been here for so many years, and much history has come along with this as well.
Built in 1913, the bridge was designed by the company Waddell & Harrington, an engineering company based in Kansas City, Missouri. The two principals were John Alexander Lowe Waddell and John Lyle Harrington. They were responsible for the design and construction of other noted U.S. landmarks, but none presented both the architectural and engineering challenges that were discovered in Pasadena.
The original design was a straight bridge across the arroyo. It became way too expensive to do that because underneath the footings were not strong enough. So they would have had to dig down way too deep to sink the concrete into the ground to stabilize the bridge. And the folks that were doing the design of the building and all this stuff at the time in the city were throwing their hands up in the air saying, we can't afford to do this. And the Board of Trade people said, well, give us a shot.
Today's Chamber of Commerce and Civic Association in Pasadena grew out of what was originally called the Board of Trade. Founded in 1888, the group undertook a strategic campaign for community funding of the project, working to convince both city leaders and residents that a bridge would be a boom for business development.
I hired a different architect and a different construction company who solved the problem by curving the bridge so that the footings of the bridge are on more solid ground, which gives it that sort of nice curve.
It was the first curvilinear concrete bridge ever constructed. No one could imagine building anything other than a bridge in a straight line until the Colorado Street Bridge couldn't be built in a straight line, and therefore it was the engineers who figured out if we map where the structural footings would be best and then designed the bridge to match those, ended up with this serpentine design for the bridge, which was unheard of, unique, and controversial in its day.
They did an incredible job because when you look at this bridge, the architecture and the geometric shapes are really beautiful.
When it was completed, it connected Pasadena to Los Angeles via the automobile, but also still horses and walkers and bicycles. At a time when, before that, Pasadena was somewhat isolated, and a trip across the arroyo was quite an adventure.
It's a piece of the brand of Pasadena as well, and you see that thing in more car commercials, TV shows, movies. It's everywhere.
You say no to life, and therefore you're not living. Yes.
It certainly has had its share of moments on the big screen, and it's used in a lot of television shooting today. So every once in a while we'll see a car commercial or the beginning of a competition show where the first thing they have to do is something related to the bridge.
11 new teams are grooving on down from Southern California's sunny coastline to the crown of the valley, Pasadena. The Colorado Street Bridge will serve as the starting line for 11 teams who will discover that the stakes are bigger than ever before as they race around the world for $1 million and a chance to win the amazing race.
Today, the bridge is on the National Register of Historic Places. and has been designated a National Historic Civil Engineering Landmark by the American Society of Civic Engineers. But fame can cut both ways. The span has also earned another, less than glorious reputation: the name Suicide Bridge.
I don't know how one deals with that as a historian other than to acknowledge the fact and to know that structures of great height or great prominence can draw negative behavior as well as positive behavior, and it's true. And even the earthquake barriers that have been constructed to try to prevent that are not foolproof.
In fact, in the 103 years since the bridge was built, more than 100 people have jumped to their deaths.
Not long after it was completed, which was 1913, we did head into the Great Depression. The bridge did become a magnet for people choosing ending their lives as the way out of their difficulties. And that was a very sad chapter, obviously. And even today, occasionally we hear of someone at least threatening to jump from the bridge.
In an effort to help dissuade a potential jumper, the city of Pasadena placed suicide prevention signs at the entrances of both sides of the Colorado Street Bridge.
Those signs are relatively recent, and although they do remind everybody who walks across the bridge that it is a site where that might happen, I think the positive effect is that it might make someone stop and think one more time or know there's help as close as a telephone to get them through whatever that dark time is.
Every other year, Pasadena Heritage holds an important community fundraising event on the bridge for ongoing preservation work.
Many years ago, a lady called and said, "I would like to come to the bridge party. It's very important to me. My mother jumped off the Colorado Street Bridge with me in her arms when I was a baby, and I survived, but she didn't." So to me, coming back to the bridge is a celebration of my survival, but also the memory of my mother who didn't see that she had another option for us. So we said, of course you should come. She didn't want to be called out or celebrated personally, but just knowing that she would come and see it as a place that was really the start of her life, as well as a monument to the tragedy of her mother's life, was meaningful to me. And maybe tragedy also has inspiration tied to it, and we can think about things that way.